Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you a quick announcement about the midterm exam. You can access it now. A couple things to remember as you're preparing to take the exam. One, the multiple choice and the essay portions are separate. You have 1 hour for each portion, so you have a total of 2 hours for the exam. And I want you to take the multiple choice and the essay portions back to back. So carve out 2 hours, or maybe 2.5 if you want to get yourself prepared before you start your exam. There are 35 multiple choice questions, and they go right along with our readings. So things to focus on, you have your study guide and you have your notes, and you can use the PowerPoint slides. You cannot use your book, and you cannot Google answers. I don't imagine that you'll do that anyway, but just throw that in there. So when you're looking at the midterm exam study guide that's listed under assignments, for the multiple choice, things to maybe get your notes ready for when you do that section are information about the 2020 vision, significant historical events that affected the counseling profession. There are a number of those included in the multiple choice section. There's some about the professional organizations, about accreditation and credentialing, a bit about licensure, some about community agencies. And if you'll remember, I said in class, but you've learned a little bit about community agencies, and we had a lecture in which we discussed the various settings, and that was from Newsome chapter 14. And so in that lecture we talked about community-based mental health areas of service, inpatient medical settings, and then specialized services. And within that we also talked about domestic violence and reasons to stay or leave. So those are the things that you want to remember when you're organizing your notes again. Other things included in the multiple choice, there's a few questions about suicide. We talked about this briefly in class and you read about it in your book. There are questions about advocacy, very brief questions, because we're going to, if you'll remember, we're going to cover that more later on. And some of these things we're going to cover more in depthly, so the questions are kind of brief as an intro to some of these topics. And so what we've discussed in class so far and what you've read are all included in the multiple choice, but some of that information more in depthly will be included in our final exam or later on in the semester. So social justice advocacy and professional advocacy, we talked about the differences in those when we talked about your generating some ideas for those. Evidence-based practices and treatment, we talked about the difference between those two things. We talked about counseling adults and the developmental progression and things at various stages of life that people encounter and how they're characterized differently. And then when we did our group in last class, we talked briefly about the stages of group. And so those are all things that are on your study guide, we've talked about in class, you've read about. So those are things to focus on for the multiple choice. When you're ready to do the essay portion, we've talked about what topics are going to be covered in your essay. And so remember that you need to know about the 2020 vision, about the professional identity of a clinical mental health counselor. You need to know about supervision and consultation, developmental processes. And then you also need to know about the licensure and exams and all of those things that we talked about and that you journaled about. And so have all of that stuff ready to go and focus your mind on those 3 things for the essay and then the other things that we went through for the multiple choice portion. Again, you have an hour to complete those. The multiple choice is 35 questions for a total of 70 points. The essays are 3 essay questions, and those are a total of 30 points. And then you should get feedback on your multiple choice when you go through, and so you'll be able to see the points just for that section that you got, and then I will grade your multiple choice, and those will go, or I'll grade your essay, and those will go together. If you have any questions, or you need anything, or you have technical difficulties, or anything, just shoot me a quick email. I'm happy to help you as best as I can. Um, I'm confident that y'all are going to do well. You're prepared. You've been actively engaged in all of the classes. You've done the readings. You know about the profession of counseling up until this point. And so believe in yourself. Um, keep on trucking through the week. I know it's midterms week, and like I said, I have confidence that you're going to do well. Let me know if you need anything, and good luck on the rest of your midterms.